I recently put out a video showing my 6 years of art progress so far, and this is a bit of a follow-up to that to answer questions and talk about what I've done, but more specifically to answer probably the most frequent question I've got, which is basically, how did you learn to draw? How did you learn to do this? And so it kind of goes without saying, but I do want to make it clear, this is just my experience and my opinion, and on top of that, I am not a professional artist. I've been doing this for about half a decade, but I do put a lot of time and thought into this stuff, and so hopefully my advice, if you think my art progress is inspiring or you would like to achieve a similar level if not more, then hopefully some of the advice I have for you will help you get to that level. I have also, up until this point, taught myself completely for free. There are a couple of art books I've bought and stuff like that, but everything I'm going to mention in this video, you can access completely for free and completely legally for free. So there's no paid education or anything like that that you need to do for the amount of progress that I've made so far, or to become 10 times better than I am right now. You really don't need to pay anything. Although as you get better and better, I think you do get to a point where maybe you'd benefit more from having some kind of paid education to push you over a certain level, but you can get everything you need for free. I also think it's important to keep in mind that even a lesson plan created by another professional artist might not suit you completely. All artists are going to take a different path and do unique things and have their own interests, and it's important that that does happen, because if you learn to be like a sterile artist who is completely replaceable by other people who draw the exact same way, then that's not really going to work to your benefit. So you want to be you and have your personality shine through to some extent, I think, if you want your art to be recognizable. And I think that's an important thing if you want people to pay attention to your art and for you to be able to stand out, and that will happen naturally as long as you keep being yourself and don't try to 100% emulate someone else. That said, you do need to aim high, and this stuff is difficult, and you do need to be able to take criticism and really consider what other people are telling you, even if it seems hard. So there's a balancing act there, which I can't help you with. You're simply going to have to figure it out for yourself. So my progress was fairly slow at first, I think, as it will be with most people, because you're essentially developing motor skills at that point. You're developing the very basics of how to put pen to paper, as opposed to any more advanced drawing techniques, and I think that's just fine. And I do think that's a good way to start out. Simply copy other people, trace over other artwork, not to claim it as your own and post it online, but just to get a sense of how these lines work, and you'll pick up a lot about, oh, so this is how they're going about drawing hair, this is how they're going about drawing this part of anatomy. So I do think it's good to just copy other people to start with and start developing your artistic eye a little bit. But you will, I'm sure, want to be making your own unique stuff like everyone does. So here's the important bit for that. So the most obvious piece of information here is the fundamentals, and that's what everyone will tell you. If you ask for art advice, people will say, well, the fundamentals, you should be doing this, and color theory and this. But I feel like a lot of people just regurgitate the same information that they've heard without actually explaining anything you can actively act on. So to list all the fundamentals, yes, it gives you something to work on, and you can go out on your own and research this and do them one at a time. But realistically, for a beginner, to tell a beginner to look into like learning anatomy or learning color theory, I think is a bit pointless and a waste of their time. And if you're doing flat anime art with just complete symbol drawing and no 3D forms, and you're learning color theory on top of that, you're really going to be holding yourself back and honestly wasting your time. Anything you learn will benefit you, but in terms of actually getting to a level where you're going to be able to use your art to make the things you want to make, there is an order of priority, I think. And so to just say, oh, the fundamentals, I really don't think is very useful to someone who is beginning and doesn't even know where to start, or feels like they're not improving enough and want something more specific to be able to act on right now. So I think you should be focused on the one most important fundamental that everything else comes from, and that's understanding 3D form. And it's a difficult thing to get into your head because it's completely abstract. It's the idea that your piece of paper is not a piece of paper, but a 3D space where things can move forwards and backwards. And that's something you really want to be able to develop your brain in to start doing. And you can do this completely for free. My advice to anyone starting out with art, or anyone who hasn't done this yet, period, is to go to drawabox.com and do their tutorials and go through the whole thing and do the 250 box challenge. The thing about Draw a Box is a lot of people see like people just drawing boxes and assume that's all it is, because it is in the name, but there is so much information there about mindset and how you should think about these things. And even one of the important lessons that's taught early on is that a huge chunk of what you should be doing should be drawing for fun and developing what you want to do and trying to be ambitious with projects that you don't think you'll be able to do. So it's not just about being bored and just drawing boxes, but that is also an important part of it, and that is going to develop your most fundamental skill, which is understanding 3D form, and everything else will improve once you've improved at that. And because I'm much happier with the level of my art in the last couple of years because of things like Drawbox, I might even go back to it and redo the whole thing, despite knowing that it's not the most fun thing in the world. It is so important, and so I want to go back and refresh my memory to just relearn things that I might have forgotten about, making sure 3D space is accurate and perspective is accurate and things like this, because I really do see the benefit of it now that I've done it, and I would highly recommend it. But most people want to draw characters, and so moving on from Drawbox, I would recommend Proko and Andrew Loomis. You don't want to start with specific anatomy like I mentioned before. If you're learning anatomy before you understand 3D forms, you're wasting your time, and I have done this myself. Is I did a lot of anatomy, but I was never really able to implement it because I wasn't able to build a 3D mannequin. So going through Proko's gesture drawing and building the mannequin with 3D forms lessons will really help you out. Proko is a really great teacher, and basically every modern artist has watched him for a reason. You should absolutely go and watch Proko, and also learn from Andrew Loomis. There's a lot of crossover there. Proko is clearly very inspired by Andrew Loomis's way of teaching, and so you can get Andrew Loomis's books for free. I think it depends on where you live, but they are old enough to be public domain, so it's not piracy if you just download them. But it is also nice to just have a hard copy if you want them. I do have them, and I think they're great, and that's a really great way to start learning how to draw human figures. And as you improve at drawing your mannequin, you'll be able to do so much more, and to me that's still what I'm trying to learn after all this time. I think that is still the most important thing for me, is that 3D mannequin and being able to do anything I want with it. But also learning more specific anatomy on top of that will start to help you out more and more as you improve. Another useful tip is just to look at art that you like. It sounds obvious, but every picture has a million secrets that you'll discover as your eye levels up. And as you improve, you'll be focused on different areas, and you'll learn about those areas when you see them and how others approach them. So one picture will teach you 50 different lessons depending on your skill level at the time and what you're looking for at the time. And so I think it's important to just have a big folder of arts that you like and to go through it every now and then, and just make sure you're constantly consuming art and picking up things from other people. There's also a couple of things that I think are really important that I was doing at the beginning that I've kind of fallen off from, and this is my plan going forwards as well, but something that I think is very important to keep in mind at the start, and that is realism really is important. You do really want to understand what you're drawing before you try and stylize it. And I originally went in with that mindset, and I do still study anatomy and stuff like that, but it's something I think I need to push far harder to improve. And every time I go to practice something realistic, I end up stylizing it because it's easier to make it look nicer, but that is going to hold back your progress long term. So I personally, and I think everyone, regardless of your skill level, you need to make sure you're also understanding realism, and it's something I am planning on pushing far harder in the near future as well. And then one of the most important tools, I think, is to work on projects and draw for fun and do big things that you want to do. If you don't have an end goal yet, then that's fine, you can work towards it, but definitely try different things and try to work on bigger things. In my 6-year progress video, there were a couple of people who I've seen say that I haven't done that much studying, or I'm not that good at the fundamentals, which I can absolutely accept that criticism. I'm definitely not that good at drawing, but I improved far less when I was only studying, which is what I kind of did for years. That 6-year video only shows the finished stuff, but that's just the 1% of arts that was finished, where there's pages and pages of studying. And like I mentioned before, studying, trying to draw a skeleton when I don't understand those 3D forms properly. And that's why just telling someone fundamentals I don't think is that useful, because they may just focus on things that aren't actually that beneficial to them at the time. To work on your own projects and draw stuff for fun, that tells you exactly what you need. You can look at your art and from there go, well, this fundamental is important to me right now. This is relevant to me right now. I can't draw this person in this pose because I don't understand 3D space well enough right now. So I need to be doing more practice with 3D space and anatomy and the 3D mannequin in 3D space. So studying is extremely important, but I don't think it should be your primary focus ever, really, because it is going to limit how much you learn in my experience. And it's a lot more boring, even if you're like me and you're able to push yourself to do it every day. It just isn't as fun and as satisfying as having a nice finished project. So projects and finished art and personal work first, and then figure out how you want to improve that, and then focus on the fundamentals from there, which fundamental is relevant to me right now. So there's a more specific lesson plan if you're one of these people who is kind of confused and you're just asking me how I learned to draw and what I would advise. Just do drawbox.com and then do Loomis and Proko, basic gesture drawing and mannequins and stuff like this. And that's really going to give you a huge boost before you move into quote unquote the fundamentals. Then things like color theory and anatomy are going to become far more useful to you. If you want to improve your art for free, you can join the Learning to Draw Discord server. And if you want to see my art before it goes up in these videos, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And that's going to be it for this video. If you have any other questions about learning to draw, leave them in the comments and I'll try and reply. I feel like this video didn't cover everything, but it covers the basics of what I've told quite a few people asking me the same question about how to start out with this stuff and how to really get a head start and really improve your skill level and develop that like artist eye. And once you get that, everything else is going to become much easier for you. So that's going to be it for this video, and goodbye.